that call and respond is getting a little stale. So we might have to consider how we might create a new whole school call and respond, but until you hear otherwise, it is still East is Beast. Remember, as soon as you say Beast, your mouth closes, okay? And make sure and help out with others around you. If you see somebody that didn't hear it, give them a look. Okay, so thank you for doing that perfectly. I do need first thing a student assistant to help me with my presentation. I saw that Ann first. Come on up. Remind me, Angela? No, yeah, Jessica. I'm sorry, Jessica what? Jessica last name? Bush. Thank you, Jessica. I just learned that yesterday. Okay, go ahead and take us to the first slide, please, Jessica, and you can feel free to have a seat. All right, here we go. You guys are the class of 2021. Did you know that? Cool. All right, so this is the same presentation that you heard last year. There are a couple new things, but in general, it's going to sound familiar to those of you that are coming back. Let me see a raise of hands if you are new to East Middle School. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of you, 3 being teachers. You're in great company. All right, so those 9 of you, if this seems pretty fast, know that you can ask your teachers. Teachers, you can ask Mr. Rowell or Mrs. Jones or me. Students, you can ask them, or you can even ask them for a copy of the presentation. They can print it off for you. So there's places where you can get this information. If you have further questions after our short 27 minutes together is through, go ahead, Jessica. All right, so we talked about the 3 R's here at East Middle School: being responsible, being respectful, and being ready to learn. Today I'm going to talk to you about what being responsible, respectful, and ready to learn looks like, and also some non-examples. Again, not going to be rocket science for most of you, but I want to make sure we all hear it. Because if I have to see you in my office sometime, I'm going to refer back to this talk, and I'm going to remind you that I told you this, and you knew better. Okay, so listen with everything you've got so that you can remember when the time comes. Okay, so there's some examples of being responsible. Any surprises on there? Probably not. Get yourself to class on time with all the correct materials. Don't look for somebody who can give me an excellent strategy of how you can organize yourself to be sure you're bringing the right materials to the right classes. Kayla?
You could look at the boards.
Looking at the board is a great idea. Dog book there. Yes, ma'am.
Organize your locker so you're in different sections.
Good locker organization is great. Dog book there. Mr. Bennett? So organization is great. Thank you. One more. I'm looking for something that's a little more concrete over here in the pink shirt.
Write it down on paper.
Okay, that's along the lines of what I'm thinking of. Tell me your name. Emily. Emily. In the back.
Write your passport.
Curl from my church. Zoe or Olivia, thanks. Write it in your passport. Okay, these are all great ideas, but yes, and if you had it in your passport in a certain place where you always look for it, pays for these two, get dog books. You don't want to ask a teacher every day. You could if you really need to, but there's a lot of other ways. Okay, I'm just going to give it to you. See, it's so funny, different groups. Last group, the very first person was on my brainwave. Make yourself a checklist that you tape on the inside of your locker, and it has all your classes and exactly what you need for each class. That's a great strategy. It works well. Now, you could keep that checklist in your passport as long as you've always got your passport handy. You could keep that checklist somewhere else, but you're always at your locker when you're trying to think about what you need. And if your teacher changes things up a lot, your checklist for that class might say to check the board, and then you don't do it. Okay? So make sure we're following dress code. Make sure we're always wearing our lanyard ID. I think I see 100% compliance out there today. Awesome. We need to go on the right side of the hall so we don't have a crash out there. Just like on the road, we have a busy school, over 1,000 students in here, plus 100 teachers, over 1,100 bodies filling these halls. Make sure you're walking on the correct side, and make sure you're walking as opposed to running, skipping, jumping, riding on your friend's back, being carried, any of the above. I'm going to really send home this 5th bullet point. I said it last year, we still had issues. Do not share your locker combination with anyone, except for your parents and your teachers if they're helping you. No students, don't do it. I don't care if they're your best friend and you trust them with every secret that you have. I want to think a little bit about that too. But they might not be your best friend in January. And I don't want you coming down to my office because somebody's playing pranks on you or taking your stuff. Now, if your code just gets compromised and somehow it gets out there, just come down to the office and we'll give you a new one. But please don't tell it to anybody. Please don't just tell it to people with the idea of, if we break up, I'll just go to the office and get a new one. Because that's a lot of work for our staff to issue new locker codes. But in the event that it happens, do let us know. We'll issue a new code. But please keep it private. Everything else on there, be clear, you're going to be learning all week, next week, about what we expect in all the different areas of the hall. I should say that all the different areas of the school. And you guys know responsibility, helping people that need it. All right, going on, Jessica. So there's some non-examples, kind of the opposite of what we just talked about. you anywhere unless you're supposed to be there. Your lanyards and IDs serve a lot of purposes. All right, next time. They get you into lunch. They get you library books, but they also let us know where you're supposed to be. Okay, and it is an expectation that it is around your neck. So we talked about the other things. Don't be tardy. Don't play around in the halls. Horseplay. I want to talk about that one too. Again, one of the biggest things that's going to end you up in my office is horseplay. And probably you're not doing it to be mean. You're probably not making a conscious effort. I think I'll break this school rule. You're probably not being disrespectful. You're probably just getting into it with your friends and you lose your head for a minute. But guess what? Horseplay can cause someone to get hurt, which will get you in my office. Horseplay can cause, again, not inadvertent, not purposeful, can cause someone to get really mad and hurt you. So there's a lot of great places in Brownsburg for horseplay. There's a lot of cool parks, basketball courts, tennis courts, neighborhoods, friends' houses, sleepovers, birthday parties. Save the horseplay for there. It doesn't have a place in school. It will get you in trouble a lot. I'm not going to say every time you do it, but it's going to get you in a lot of trouble. Especially if you do it regularly. Okay, so good. Number 4. Dog who can tell me what the word is for this. Not following expectations when you think no one's looking. In other words, follow those expectations all the time, even if no one's looking. What is that? Integrity. Yes, thank you, son. What's your name? Edison means dog butt. All right, and then, of course, trash in the place. You guys know me. We've been together for lunch for a year now. We leave the cafeteria better than we found it. We leave our earth better than we found it. You know, they call it a zero impact. Don't leave that footprint behind you. So when you go into that cafeteria, I don't care if that Cheeto was on the floor when you got there. I expect that you're going to pick it up and get it in the trash can. Okay, we leave our place better than we found it. If you drop a gum wrapper on the floor behind you, you stick gum somewhere, oh boy, whew, you want to see that side of the train people don't like to see? That's a good way to see it. Not too many of you in this room have seen that. That's a good thing. All right, and then of course, not following adults' instructions, disrupting class. Those are all things that you don't want to do. Disrupting class is so critical because not only is it not responsible, it's also not respectful because your peers deserve that right to learn. That's why they come to school. That's why a lot of the parents move to this community. And when you disrupt that class, it takes away that time from them. It's really not fair. Going on. Respect. So you're doing a great job of item number 1. You're listening all the time, but not just for your teachers. If you have a friend who has the floor, if they're speaking in class or asking a question, don't have a side conversation. It's just rude. 6-inch voice. I'm not using my 6-inch voice right now because I'm talking to a big room, so I'm using like my 50-foot voice. But most times for you in school, you're expected to use your 6-inch voice. Cafeteria, hallways, classroom, work, when you have permission to use your 6-inch voice, you don't need to speak any louder than that. If someone is further away from you, but if they're further away than that, you don't need to be talking to them because they're too far away. They're disruptive. All right, so I think the other thing we've talked about in the responsibility, don't horseplay. Keep an eye on your answer yourself. Usually horseplay, right? Again, value to the property. Even if you heard someone's locker code, doesn't mean you should use it to play a trick on them. It's not a trick that we're going to think is very funny in the office. And you know, make sure you follow those teachers' expectations in class. If you're expected to raise your hand before you speak, please do so. Don't just blurt it out. Go ahead, Jessica. Non-examples. Okay, so again, that communication can be verbal and nonverbal, right? So you don't have to say anything to seem disrespectful. Let's watch those let's watch those stances. Item number 2. I stressed it last year. I'm going to stress it again this year. I've been stressing it since I started here. I'm going to tell you how many years ago. You are never going to be okay arguing with the teacher. Okay? If you end up in my office and it's because you decided to engage in an argument with a teacher, it's not going to turn out well for you, even if you're right. Okay? Because I've already burst your bubble last year, so you already know this, but teachers, while they seem superhuman, they do, actually aren't. They aren't human. And they might make a mistake. And I might make a mistake. And Mr. Hacker might even make a statement, and then I'll give him the point over taking it for 30 more seconds. But in that moment, close your mouth. Use the STAR method. Stop. Think about what's going on. Adjust your response and respond appropriately. And in the middle of class, when you just did something to get your teacher's attention, which maybe you really weren't at fault, but you have to pay attention, your you feel so certain that you didn't do anything wrong this year, got you mixed up with the other student in the class, it looks like you, what's the right response? Who remembers from last year, or who just knows? Yes?
Wait a day and let yourself cool off.
Thank you. I talked about giving yourself the gift of time, and I talked about really making it that next day. Some students think you can do that for class, and some students probably can. But most of us need a night's sleep to really decide, is this a deal or not? You might wake up the next morning and think, okay, I get it. I see why Mrs. Zimmerman called. I was giggling. Yeah, wasn't it her? Yeah, and I didn't do it, but I was, okay, go on. I'm not in trouble because, you know, you are in trouble. You know, you've got to think about it the next morning. If it's still important to you, if it's still bothering you, then you need to go to Mrs. Zimmerman that morning and talk to her and say, here's what happened. You know, if you have a minute to talk to me. And not only is that going to help you get the desired outcome, it's going to increase and improve your relationship with Mrs. Zimmerman because you're going to be advocating for yourself. We talked about what that word means last year. All right, Mr. Hacker.
All right, seventh graders. And so I'm sure most of you or some of you have seen in the cafeterias or in the hallways, and so I hope that you continue to do that. And so looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you. Very, very excited. Yesterday was an outstanding day, right? And so I know that you guys helped with that because you guys are leaders down here on the main floor. Okay, you're the oldest group of kids that we have on the first floor here. And so we have to rely on you. So the sixth graders are looking at you every single day. I know some passing periods overlap. They see you coming from lunch, going to lunch, how they're going to act next year. Right? So that's a big responsibility. Right? Whether you like it or not, that's what they're looking for. Okay? And so we expect so much of you. All right? And the next 2 years are going to go by so quickly that, and you're going to be in high school before you know it. And guess what? If you don't have some of the routines and your own, kind of patterns in place of how you study, and that you're doing your homework, and that you're listening to your teachers and doing all the right things, all our expectations that Ms. Sharing is talking about, then you're going to struggle making that transition. Now's the time to figure it out. Okay? You have to make sure that you do everything you're asked, and maybe a little bit more. That's what's going to take you to that next level. That's going to make you as prepared as possible for next year and then years beyond. Okay? We don't find at the high school, I was there for the last 4 years, that very many kids come in successful if they did not have those patterns in place as a 7th grader and then as an 8th grader. Okay? So this year makes such a big difference for you. All right? And so we welcome you. I said yesterday was such a great day. The last thing I'll say here is make sure that you get to know the 2 people outside of your teachers that are going to be consistent with you for the next 2 years. Ms. Sharon and Ms. Jones. Okay? Those 2 people are people in your corner that you'll have from year to year, that if you have a question, you got a problem, you got a concern, that those are other people outside of your teachers that you'll go to. Okay? And so I hope you have a great relationship established already after a year, and we're going to continue to build on those. So again, welcome. Thanks for doing such an amazing job thus far, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you. Okay? So thanks for such a great start to the year. Yeah.
All right, I glazed over that first bullet, but I want to bring you back real quick. What's another word for that first bullet? What's that known as? It's actually 2 words. I recall. Somebody I haven't heard from, please. David? I can't understand it. No, I think, you're giving me an example of a name you don't want to call him. Yes, don't ever call him that. Good example. What I'm asking for is this can be summarized. Treating others the way that you would like to be treated can be summarized as someone I haven't heard from. Sorry, Ben. Have you heard from me? Yes, son. The golden rule. Doc back there. Yes. So just remember that golden rule. If you wouldn't like someone saying or doing that to you, don't do it to them. It makes things really simple. I have to ask myself that sometimes when I make a decision. Would I like it if someone did this to me? If not, I really try hard not to do those things. All right, and I think we've covered the rest. Oh, profanity, let me touch on that one. That's not just the list of those 4-letter words that you can come up with, but that's also replacement words. So there's nobody in here that has any doubt in your mind that if you use the word F-U-C-K, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. But guess what? If you use the word that's spelled a little differently, F-R-I-C-K, you're still going to get in trouble. So don't use any replacements for swear words. No place in school for those. Period. Next page. Please. All right. So now we're going on to our last R, being ready to learn. Oh, wow. Do some of those things look familiar? Have you seen some of those things in respect and responsibility already? These things tie pretty hand in hand. You begin to do these practices, like Mr. Harker mentioned, of respect, responsibility, and am I ready to learn, it's not gonna be 6 slides, it's gonna be about 10 things you do regularly. There you go, have your materials, get to class with them on time, turn them in on time, do your best work, do your own work. If you're in a group that you're collaborating, collaborate, don't copy. Advocate for yourself. We talked about what that means last year. Those of you who are new to us, if you don't know what advocating for yourself means, ask a teammate. We talked about that last year. And if you forget, ask your teacher. Stay in your team area. Again, your lanyards serve more than one purpose. They let us know where we're supposed to be. Using your time. Actively listening. Who remembers what that means? Most of you are doing this right now. Let's actively listen. I'd like to hear from Jalen. Tracking. Perfect. Yeah, so you're looking at that person, you're nodding maybe, you're doing all those things to acknowledge that you are not just sitting there quietly. We forget about the last 2 things. A good night's sleep and a good breakfast and a good lunch. Your brain only functions at its top performance when it's fed. It's fed for sleep. That's when you turn it off and our body repairs itself, renews. Okay, so you need those at least 8 hours for your age, hopefully a little more. I think really at your age you probably need closer to 10. We don't know if everybody's getting that, but definitely really getting those. And then breakfast and lunch. I mean, I don't like breakfast. Eat it. Make yourself like it. You are not doing your best if you are not eating breakfast. Okay? And if you think, well, I'm doing pretty good, I get all A's. Think what you do if you're eating breakfast every day. Next page, Jessica. And then there's your knots. Again, the opposite. Don't be late. Don't come with half your homework done. Don't do slack work on your homework. Every time you turn something into your teacher, that's representative of you, of who you are. Don't give them a representation that's less than who you really are. Again, don't talk about talking. Don't copy. Don't, these are things we know. No horseplay. No disrupting. We've been through all this. Ooh, but that last one, not asking questions for help when needed. That kind of goes tied inside with advocating for yourself. So just remember that being ready to learn isn't just doing what you need to do. It's also sometimes having to go a little bit beyond that and ask the questions that you ask. I must not be engaging. Some of you are dozing off. I'll try to get more exciting. I'll skip. Maybe I'll do a toe touch or something. You guys good enough? Should I do a little pirouette? Okay. All right. Next page, please. I'll dance while I teach. Okay. We're going to talk about dog bugs now. So you do your 3 R's. They're going to add up. Don't ask for them. I used to tell my students when I was teaching, I still say this as an AP, if you ask them for a dog bug, I don't care if you're just the best thing you're not ready to get you one. That's in the way. Okay. Don't ask your teachers for dog bugs. You guys know there's lots of cool things you can use them to spend, to buy, I should say. Okay, here's the big thing. I gotta slow down, stop dancing, be really serious. You may only spend dog bugs that you earned from a teacher, directly, or an adult in the building, any adult in the building. Lunch ladies give dog bugs. Custodians give dog bugs. But it has to be an adult in this building, okay? I don't care if you say, oh, I just found in the hallway, didn't have a name on it, so I thought I would use it. Nope. My friend doesn't like them, so he gave them to me. Nope. These are, the whole point of these is this is a currency. This is like something you earned. Your work is being a student, and you are getting paid for doing that well. And you can't, you're not an adult yet, so some adults can barter and trade and do some things like that and earn money in other ways outside of their primary profession. But at least you cannot. Okay, because it takes away the power of them. And we've had issues with kids bullying other kids to get dog bugs or offering to buy them lunch for dog bugs, spending their parents' money. Okay, so it's just not something we want to happen. So don't do it. You'll get in trouble. There's some of you in this room that can probably speak to that. It might have been honest, but you can't. If you are someone that doesn't like dog bugs, don't give them away. 2 things. Number 1, talk to me. There's got to be something out there I can get in the store or some privilege I can find that you'd be willing to work for. And I'll do it as soon as possible. Or if I still can't convince you and you're so unmotivated, there's nothing you're willing to work for, tell your teacher no thank you. Don't even take them. Don't tempt yourself to get yourself or somebody else in trouble. Because that's hard to say no to. If you're really working towards something like Colts tickets, and you got a buddy saying, here, I'll give you these tickets, all you got to do is buy them chips. It's hard to say no to. Don't do it. Okay? Next page, please. There's your dog bug stuff. I'm not going to spend much time on this. You guys know all of these things. Your team will talk to you about the individual stuff. That's the right-hand column. Those are just ideas. Your team will tell you what you can use them for on team. School-wide, you have all of those things. And in terms of the really big ones, primarily the tickets. You'll hear announcements when you have them. We don't have those all the time. They're seasonal. It's how many I can get donated or bought or whatever. So listen for announcements at lunch and over the PA when we have big ticket items. Typically the big ticket items run around 200, so that can kind of be your target if you're looking for any of those things. All right, moving on. Gotta check my time, guys. 26, 7 minutes. We're doing good. Okay. Talk to your teachers if you have other ideas. I think there are people in here that can speak that if you give me ideas, I will do everything I can to get them scored. I added actually a lot last year because I think it was last year's 7th graders. This year's 8th graders gave their teachers a lot of ideas. That's where the snapback caps came from, the drawstring backpacks. A couple things I hadn't thought of got on this list through telling your teachers and teachers emailing me. Okay? Because Mrs. Jones, I should say, worked really hard to put a grant in this year to get us money for this store. So we have the money to stock it, and we want to spend it on things that will motivate you. Go on, Jessica, please. All right, so now the last 6 minutes of this talk is about discipline. It's about consequences. I don't want to spend much time this year talking about consequences. I'd rather tell you up front and have to spend less time talking individually with you guys about consequences. But so right now, from now until hopefully the rest of the year for most of you, your teachers are just going to use their normal classroom behavior management plans. And those might include, obviously it's going to include verbal warnings, redirections, reminders, different sorts of things they tell you about. For some of you, it's going to involve a hard phone call home to your parents. For some of you, it's going to involve multiple phone calls home to your parents. And at some point, it probably, for some of you, will involve some actual consequences. Maybe some detentions, maybe a Friday school or two. But if you get to a point where your teachers are working together and they're like, hands in the air, we've tried everything, we have no more ideas, we are out of our bank of strategies, they're going to tell you, you're on the school-wide discipline plan. If you hear that phrase from a teacher, it is time to get yourself in check. Because your teachers have gone to school for 4, 6, 7 years to learn how to manage student behavior. And if you exhaust their bag of tricks, there's a problem. Okay? And so if you haven't fixed it by then, when they say school-wide discipline plan, you better get it in check. Here's what happens quickly if you get on that plan. Go ahead, Jessica. So the first couple steps, it says verbal. Those should really say written. I need to update that for next year. It's going in Power School. And it's going to say, first step of the school-wide plan, or second step of the school-wide plan. Your teacher's going to put that in there. And that's going to notify me. It comes to me. I'm going to say, oh, well, little Amber's on the school-wide plan. What's up with that? And if I see her in the hallway, I might say, that's not me, by the way. Sorry to see you, Ren. I forgot we shared a name for a minute. I was trying to pick on myself. Actually, Amber's a great one to pick on, because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of conversations with this one. That's sarcasm, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to have the front guy see at lunch say, hey, what's up? I just noticed your teacher put you on the plan. Get it in check. And right then it's full up. It's just us working together. But as it moves on, if you get to that third, now your parents being contacted, well, your parents contacted on the first and second as well, probably 10 times before that through the teachers' collaborative efforts. But now they're being officially notified about these things. On the third time, they're calling you in for a team meeting, and you're going to sit there with 4 or 5 adults and have a pretty uncomfortable meeting about your behavior. So if you haven't got it in check by then, certainly time then. If you get to the fourth, now not only are you having that team contact, your parents are getting called. And parents love to hear from the school, but not when it's about discipline, not when their child's not following the rules. So please don't make your parent have to come in and have that uncomfortable conversation. But again, the goal is that something clicks. The goal is that along the way you get it and you move forward and it's over. It's just a little bit of an uncomfortable memory. But if that doesn't work, then we're going on now to the formal behavior plan. Okay, so this means your teachers are going to spend tons of time doing a functional behavioral assessment. They're going to call in our behavior specialist for the corporation. It's going to be a big deal. If you find yourself on a behavior intervention plan, you're going to be meeting with me every other week. You don't want to do that. I don't really see anyone in here right now that was on a BIF last year. So that's I think I'm talking to a really great group that's going to have a really awesome year. But that is not something you want. And when you meet with me, I'm not going to be all mean and yelling at you. I'm going to be working on positives and solutions. But you're too close. You're too close to getting kicked out of school. By the time you're meeting with me every other week, you're nearly 4 or 5 blocks away from getting kicked out of East Middle School. Next page, please, Jessica. 2 minutes. All right, and then beyond that, when you're getting up to 6, 7, 8, we're talking about you're going to be working with me. Your teachers are done. They've tried their very hardest, and I recognize that, and I appreciate that. And so now it's time for me to give suspensions to just say, hey, you're either going to change your ways or you're not. If you get to that 10th log on the school-wide management plan, you are going to be looking at a new learning environment. So it might be an alternative, the BLC, Brownsburg Learning Center. It might be that you just get expelled, kicked out of school. That's not good, guys. It's really not good. The BLC is a great alternative to learning, but you're not here with 4 teachers who are specializing their content to teach you. Stay here. The moment you hear that utterance of school-wide discipline plan, please fix whatever it is you're doing wrong. Okay? Next page, please. All right, the Big Ten, I'm just going to read them to you. You guys know these. Turn the page, please. These things guarantee you a suspension, either an ISS, an OSS, or a recommendation for expulsion. Don't even consider these things. Fighting, drugs and controlled substances, causing injury to school personnel. That'll not only get you expelled, it'll also get you arrested. So, I mean, that's obviously intentional. I heard Mr. Renner use the excuses that if you trip and you actually, you're not doing anything wrong, a teacher falls down, and yeah, we're not going to arrest you for that. But again, if we're not doing horseplay, then that won't probably happen either. Weapons and look-alike weapons, guys. Obviously, no place in school for anything, guns, knives. But here's the thing that I've seen happen. I know for middle-aged boys, airsoft gun wars are a big thing in the neighborhoods, whatever. Do not bring that to school. That's a look-alike. You can get recommended for expulsion for that. Okay, so if you're going to a slaughter party Friday night, and they have to bring my airsoft bag in my backpack, don't do it. Those are the times when we've seen good kids making one really bad decision, get in big trouble for us. So just think about that. Harassment, threats, bullying, we'll loop those together. That's being mean to somebody intentionally, and Mrs. Jones, and I don't have any tolerance for that. So don't even consider it. Again, golden rule applies. Don't take things that don't belong to you, that's theft. And then we talked about last lunch. It's happened. You're in line, there's a chicken nugget, it looks really good. You pop it in your mouth, your friends laugh, you think you're really cool. Suddenly you find yourself suspended. If you do that again, not only are you suspended, but you're arrested for theft. And somebody in the last group said, you can get arrested for stealing 2 chicken nuggets? Yeah, theft is theft, so don't do it. Don't do it. I think it's not worth it. And then anything illegal, and so that's gross. I don't think any of you guys would consider that. But all right, next page. I gotta wrap it up. I am almost out of time. It's my time right now. Tardies, your teachers will go over with you, right, guys? I don't need to spend much time on that, but they'll tell you the tardy policy that applies. Don't be tardy. Next page, please. Dress code. I can actually take out here because we started showing a video on it now, but it's just like it has been the previous years. The main idea, ladies, no plunging neckline. It's got to be 3 inches. Today I put a shirt on that I bought specially for first day. It was purple because we're Brownsburg Bulldogs, purple, and I really want to wear that. But I noticed next to the low, I put my ID up there, and it was like ½ inch too short. So I changed. I'm wearing pink. It's not school colors, but at least it's dress code appropriate. Make sure you think about that. 4 inches for the knees. Gentlemen, wear your pants where they belong. No sagging. We don't want to see underwear. Even if you have 7 years, got to play shorts on under your pants. I still want to see them keep them where they belong. Next page, please. Same, more of the dress code, same as it's always been. Next page, please. Teachers. Flash drives. If your teacher already told you, great. If not, I want to make sure you know. Can't bring them to school anymore. Okay? Hold on. Because games and viruses come on flash drives. We all have access to the cloud now. You're going to get your own email. You're going to get your own setup. It's awesome because not only can you do it from anywhere, any computer with internet access, mobile phone, etc. You can also work collaboratively with your group mates and not have to get together. So you can say 7 o'clock, you all jump on. All your changes are live. It's really slick. So we'll be training your teachers. They'll be training you, but there are no more flash drives. And then last bullet, guys, this has always been a rule, but the bus drivers asked us to stress this. And I thought I should because I had to deal with it a few times last year. There is no videography, no photography, definitely no flashes or flashlights on the bus. It can cause an accident or it can also invade someone's privacy. So don't take videos, pictures flashing on the bus. Last page. All right, you guys remember from last year, be a star, stop, think about what you need to do, adjust yourself, and then respond appropriately. Remember, if you do the STAR method, you'll be stars, and we'll have a great year.